and storage services. So as you can see, we're in the business of moving. So this topic is very relevant for Crown. So we're happy to share our insights about relocating to the Philippines. So before we dive into the details, let me give you a quick snapshot about the Philippines market in the lens of relocation for some context. The Philippines experienced continued economic growth until it was significantly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic and subsequent lockdowns in 2020. The economy, however, is expected to recover strongly, whilst the trade could be boosted to new deals with regional countries. Some of the significant impacts are freight charges that skyrocketed 3 times the pandemic rate, and high restrictions imposed on in-person transactions. There's restricted mobility of people that hampered the shipment of goods in and out of the country. And on the flip side, there's also an increasing demand for immigration services due to the ever-changing travel regulation. Still, the country remains as an attractive market to invest because of the low business setup cost, strategic location, and the availability of top-notch workforce. According to BSP, we are expected to return to our pre-pandemic level by the third quarter of 2022. As mentioned, Crown is in the moving business and was highly impacted by the pandemic. We've seen and heard from our clients about different issues, scenarios, and struggles, which we want to share with you today. So first is what are those challenges of the expats moving to the Philippines today? First, planning and scheduling of relocation might be a challenge, as well as due to the variants that is coming here and there, and the cause of the infection surge resulting to lockdowns. Also, some of the companies has totally canceled relocation because of these restrictions. And employers are now looking at going with a work from home setup because it works for them. And finally, with the new government administration, we must anticipate changes or regulations that would affect expats moving in the Philippines. Now things are slowly turning back to normal since our borders have reopened. As mentioned by our co-panel, in April, the pre-pandemic have slowly returned back, almost back to normal as soon as the expats are allowed to enter. However, there are still delays which affects on how soon the expat can start working in the company, as they are still highly dependent on when these necessary working permits and visas will be issued. While we are under the alert level 1 for many months, the alert level can change every 2 weeks. We experience this a lot of times. This affects, of course, on how relevant government offices operates. So there are certain situations where there's absence signatories and adapting to the hybrid work arrangement of the government entities. The next question is, are the expats really coming back? We are already seeing this. There's an increase of expats coming to the Philippines the moment the borders open. In April, there are also expats going back to the Philippines in return to their assignments, as some were put on hold, mainly due to the border restrictions. And with more than 2 years of continuously relocating amidst the pandemic, Crown has adopted and adjusted to the operations with the protocol situations and environment requirements. On the immigration piece, pre-COVID today, what have changed? So the pre-pandemic immigration processes in the Philippines requires the applications to be submitted physically. However, some government offices such as DOLE, and PEZA have adopted to online submissions and would continue doing so while we are somehow in the new normal, while the others, such as the Bureau of Immigration, remain to be the same. There are also additional steps that were implemented, such as securing of a travel pass before departure for those who are holding special visas like PEZA visa, EO226, and etc. That adapted to the registration and monitoring systems for all foreign nationals while developing a centralized system for those visa issuing agencies. Then the interim visa application processes, such as the 9G131-A, or what we call the remote visa, where it's being applied even if the applicant is out of the country. Those were introduced during the pandemic, but is no longer applicable now that the borders are open. So basically, we're now back to pre-pandemic processes with some changes on how we do things. So companies are being more aware of the considerations to give to the employee the best experience that they have should a relocation is really imperative. So what is Crown's outlook about the return to pre-COVID-19 level? So as mentioned earlier, freight has started to pump up because of the global logistics problems caused by the pandemic, which led to the growing port congestion, blockage of the Suez Canal, and delays in manufacturing, extreme weather events, the threat of the Al volcano erupting, and the continuing restrictions due to COVID-19 has affected the movement of the expats outbound and inbound the country. Some of the clients has to cancel or even postpone their moving because of the massive freight costs. This continues in 2022, but restrictions in buildings and condominiums or even gated communities has been lifted. So companies like Crown had expected to have reduction in freight in Q1 of 2022 because of the congestions. The congestions has been resolved. However, due to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, fuel kept on increasing, which is also the main factor affecting mobility. But nevertheless, there are clients that are really pushing through with their moves, regardless of this cost around it, such as reasons about critical projects, end of assignment, retirement, or change of work location.